Welcome to the Aceman, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for downloading us. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate it so very much. And if you have a moment, please give us that 5-star written review wherever you download your podcast. It's a great way to help the podcast. If you want to help us out another way, tell a friend. We all learn about podcasts from our friends' recommendations, and that's a way you can help us out by recommending us to a friend.
And the last way, if you really enjoy the show, is to go to our Patreon page and become a patron. And that is at www.patreon.com/behindthefunny. And what that will get you, it's one simple giving level, $5 a month. That will get you a t-shirt or a mug, some sort of merchandise, as well as unlocking bonus content that only our patrons can access.
Thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to reach out, you got a question for us, you got a comment, anything, please send us an email at behindthefunnypod@gmail.com.
And now, enjoy the show.
Be careful. He's and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
I feel like Brad Pitt right now. What's in the bag? What's in the bag?
Let's introduce our bourbon date for
Please.
this week. All right, are you ready? You're going to be impressed with this
I'm
one.
just holding the bag.
Just hold the bag. You ready?
What we got?
We got some
Damn.
4 Roses single barrel. I was told at the liquor store this is really nice.
The single barrel is a nice one.
Single barrel. I spent a little more money for Scotty Boy because I know he likes it. But you may notice to my right, or if you're on the screen to my left.
My right, your left.
My right, your left. We have our sometimes third co-host, our regular third co-host is here.
People are going to think it's October.
I know. Well, and that's why we actually.
Well, we're just letting everybody know that end of September will be my final episode.
No, we are letting everyone know that we are doing an investigation at the Payne House. It's all set up. Our buddy Tom Stewart here is going to be there with us, and then we're going to have him through the month of October or Scottober. He's going to be coming on with some of our various guests. I've already scheduled a couple of our spooky guests for the month of Scottober.
Yes, my ex-friends Ace and Tom will be with me on this investigation.
I'm like your lead ghost correspondent.
That's right. So
you are a consultant into the paranormal.
We've got that coming up, and so we were going through some stuff, and we asked Tom if he wanted to hang around while we talked to our guest tonight, who neither of you guys had met, and for some reason,
unfortunately,
this guy is an awesome, hilarious comic. He was actually voted top comic in Las Vegas. I think it was 2020 or 2021, whatever, before the world blew up. He was voted top comic in Las Vegas.
I was going to say, I hope it's not during 2020.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, hopefully not. I knew him.
Right.
I knew him from the Boston days, and in fact, I got to ask him about this because I thought he was originally from Boston, and then when I was doing research for the show. And I like saying that. Yeah, I know. I like saying research for the show when it means that I read the bio that they sent.
You Googled it.
I Googled the bio.
You read a Wikipedia
Hey, that's
page.
research. That's research. Hey, the fact that any of our guests have a Wikipedia page is a good thing.
Good point. Good point.
But no, this guy, very, very funny comic. I miss working with him, and I don't know. We're going to talk to him about how long he's been in Vegas, but this guy is a hilarious, hilarious comic. So please put your hands together for a Behind the Funny welcome for Mr. Butch Bradley. Butch.
Thank you, guys.
How's
this
that
is as
feeling?
close as I've been to Boston in a while, so it feels good.
I know.
When's the last time you were out here, Butch?
You know, I did that new room. God,
Laugh Boston?
Yeah, left Boston, but like a year before the pandemic or something like that.
So maybe
Yeah.
around 2019 was your last
Yeah.
one?
But I mean, I'm from Jersey, but I consider myself a Boston comic. I moved to Boston, started doing open mics. My mom opened Foxwoods. She came from the casino industry. So I started in Mystic and I moved there. I left like my real job because my dream was to be a comic. And I thought if I move to Boston, all those guys are killers and I can learn where I don't know anyone. And I just started doing open mics at Nick's, and that's how it went. Like my first night at Nick's Comedy Stop, I met Bill Burr, Dane Cook, and Patrice, and
Not familiar with those guys. Not familiar with those.
Yeah,
Whatever happened to
Boston.
them?
Let me Google their bios.
Any of them do well?
Right. Yeah, just that's like Boston's in my blood. It was a very, all of the good things that have happened in my career came from having murderers like, Lenny Clark, Kevin Knox, Tony V, Kenny Rogerson. These were the hosts.
Yeah.
These were the hosts.
I know.
Don Gavin.
Yeah.
And it took me years to figure out why all the hosts in the country sucked and why comedy was so hard for me to get one laugh after Boston host.
Yeah.
And then I realized these guys were murderers.
Right. Well, and we've talked about that, especially more recently. We've had some comics on, and we've all kind of put two and two together. Like, why do they say Boston comics are killers? Why is it we go out of state and we do so well? And that's the reason why, because that host headliner show, if you were going to go up after Kevin Knox just destroyed the room in a hosting spot to open the show with 10 minutes, you had to be good. If you shit the bed on your first time up, you had to, all right, I got to go back to the drawing board and I got to do better next time.
And that's exactly what happened to me, Butch. Was my very first time on stage in a club was Kevin Knox's open mic night at Faneuil Hall.
Cool.
We drew numbers out of a hat. I drew number one. He goes up and does 10 minutes of the greatest material I've ever heard in my life.
Right,
100 people in the audience are giving him a standing ovation, and I got to go up and do my first set ever in a comedy club. I almost just left. I'm not even going to do this because I cannot follow that. But you know what?
Right. And that room was scary. That room was designed for Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell's special.
Yeah. So it was gorgeous. It was like so beautiful and open mic, and it was terrifying. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that room was packed because of the host.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. It was a 400-seat room, and on a Monday night, you'd have 100 to 150 people in there.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, that lower
incredible.
section was full. It was crazy.
So my first time on stage at Nick's, and this is all being thrown back love to Boston, how crazy it is, what you go through, and what a gift it is if you survive it. My first night, Nick's Comedy Stop, packed. I couldn't think. I thought I was going to puke and die. The host is murdering. It's Billy Martin, who becomes the head writer, executive producer of the Bill Maher Show.
Right.
I'm letting my dogs in. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay.
And and the second time was Vinny Favorito, who picked me out of a group and said, I'm going to teach you a lesson because you hung out enough and you deserve it.
Yep.
You're next. He went up, did 10 minutes. I remember watching him move. I couldn't hear. I thought I was going to go over. And I went up. I don't know if I had laughs. I just remember when I got off, him smiling at me like he gave me something good.
Yep.
But it felt like a train. To this day, it felt like a train ran me down. It felt like I stood on the tracks and had a train run me over. But those moments, it helped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it got easier after that.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned Mystic, Connecticut. Now, was that Brad's treehouse at the time?
So that was in town. That was one of the first times I saw live comedy. My mom was brought up from Atlantic City to Foxwoods to train the first round of dealers and floor people. And a couple of years later, I came up to do open mic. I started a little open mic room in Westerly, and I would the first comic I ever saw like live, one of the first times, was Mitchell Walters at that little Treehouse Comedy Club.
Okay, yeah.
But we had a little room in Westerly where I would invite like Bob Marley, Kevin Knox. I'd have these guys come in headline for like $300 like on a Monday, and my friends and I would eat it, and they would clean up the mess, and it was, and all of the bartenders and waitresses from Foxwoods on a Monday night would fill up this 200-seat bar, and the owner loved me, and they all spent money, and I got to work with Patrice and all those guys like Bobby
Kelly.
Bobby Kelly all the time.
Yep.
But I'm like sprinting because these memories are so amazing. But I started. It was me, Al Del Benny, and a couple other guys. We were in Harvard Square. We started a group called the Id after we met at Westerly, and all those guys would play in through our group at the Id. And man, I don't even. You guys got me racing.
So was the Id the precursor to Alan the Monkeys? Or was that after Alan the
Monkeys?
After. Okay.
So Dane would come improv in with us. That was in Harvard Square.
Yep.
Sold out every night because there'd be a knock at the door, and we were improv stand-ups. So we'd start the show with an opener. We knew we had to get to the middle bit. If we were in trouble, Ace would hit the middle bit, then we'd run to the closer. But at any moment, someone would knock on the door at the Can Tab in Harvard Square downstairs. Justin McKinney would come in dressed as a state trooper, knock at the door. Patrice came in, and they'd improv through the whole show. Dane Cook. It was magic, man. We got some heat from Comedy Central. We got some, big buzz on us. And, but eventually we went off to do stand-up. Al Del Benny is now in Australia.
Yeah. We actually had him. We had him on the show about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I got to show you guys a photo.
We had him on. Oh, yeah. We had Al on. That was the first time we used Facebook Messenger. We used for the audio, and it literally sounded like it was in the next room. It was so crazy. I mean, that's one of the things that kind of opened us up to being able to get guests like you who aren't necessarily in New England anymore. So when was the first? What you said that you came up and started doing it, but what year was that? That you?
It was like it was 1997, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And my first real comedy friend was Dwayne Perkins, and he's the only one that was like my buddy who stayed through the whole process. Really? You know what I mean? I mean, everyone else is still there, but Dwayne was like a guy. As I was walking the stage at Nick's, he smiled and he's dancing, and I go, "Man, you must have been doing this for years." And he's like, "No, I'm new."
He was just so cool, right?
He was like, I go, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm going to stage, going to die, wishing I was dead. I really did. I wished I was dead. Yeah. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're going to be good, man. You're going to be good."
We had him on last year too.
And I can see him having that kind of attitude because that's how he was on the podcast too. He just that same, just smooth, cool.
Well, at one point, I've known the guy for 30 years,
and you called him Wayne.
I called him Wayne. He goes, "Dwayne, Wayne, whatever, man. My family calls me Wayne." I go, "Good, we're like family."
Yeah.
And we called the episode Wayne with a D.
Yeah, Wayne with a D was the name of this episode. Yeah. So you started that first time in 97. Is that when you moved up to Mystic? Was around that time? Or
no, before. So I was managing nightclubs. I went to school. I went to college. I was managing nightclubs. I worked for a big company that owned 12 properties. And I always dreamt of being a stand-up, but I was too terrified to really announce that. And people would say, "You're funny," and this and that. But I started doing 65, 70 hours a week, and I burned out so much that I realized I could easily get a job I don't like. Mm-hmm. I should go try and do something that I'm dreaming about. So I got so burnt out that I quit my job, told them I was going to be a comedian. They all laughed at me. And then it took me I moved, got a bartending job, and then I moved to Mystic, and then I got a bartending job in Boston. So it took 3 years before it all actually transpired to begin. and I would bartend up the street from the Faneuil Hall gig at Comedy Connection, and I would say I have a spot, and the owner thought it was funny. He would tell the other bartender to cover for me, and I'd run down Broad Street, Little Broad Street. I'd run down Broad Street with my Ayers Rock shirt, and I'd run in, and I would do my open mic, and then I'd run back, and all the other bartenders are like, "Man, we can't stand working with you. We hate working with you."
I got to cover you for a goddamn half hour every time you leave.
Yeah, man, it was cool.
Wow. Now, what did your mom say? Sorry, what did your mom say when you said you were going to quit your job and be a comedian? 2
people immediately said I should do it, and that was my mom and my brother, and a lot of other people. I grew up in Jersey. Everybody was funny. It's like Boston. Your friends are funny.
Yeah.
Boston, New York, Jersey. Like these people, we all have social skills.
Right.
Like we meet diversity every day on the train, and we're around. Our family members are funny. They're funnier than anybody we've ever worked with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so my mom and my brother were like, go. And everyone else came along in time. I think people they get really nervous when you mention a dream. They take it on themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, because the people that achieve their dreams are people that aren't afraid to fail. And the other people are the people that are afraid of the failure. So that's why they do the backup plan. And
So
they take that path instead. Now, you said that was your dream. I mean, how far back are we talking? Were you a kid and you knew comedy was in your future?
My story's weird because my mom was like a waitress in Atlantic City, and then gambling became legal. So my mother was one of the first employees at Resorts International.
Okay.
So she would take my brother and I as little kids into resorts, Sinatra, Dean Martin, everyone you can imagine is hanging out
around
there.
These big entertainers.
As a child, real little kid, I was 7 and 8 years old watching Rodney Dangerfield and Don Rickles.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's crazy. And think of it like a Boston. Think about it as your little town.
Yeah.
And your mom and my mom worked with everybody. The security, it was a cousin. The guy in the cage was my uncle. Everyone. So they'd be like, "Yo, sneak Butchie and Brian in this way. Come over here, sit over here," and we would watch Barry Manilow and Donna Summer. And we didn't understand what we were seeing, but I remember watching Rodney specifically, move the room in a way that I've never seen humans move.
Right.
Add that to my mom letting me watch SNL. I was like, this is an amazing power. Watching this old guy run around, and then the audience move. And I remember sitting there quiet, and I just wanted to do it. And I dreamt of it. I always dreamt of being in front of an audience. But, you get living, and then you're like, I better get a job and pay bills. But I got lucky. They worked me too hard, and I left.
Oh, right. Now, is your brother older or younger than you?
I'm the oldest, yeah. Okay. My younger brother passed away 10 years ago. Crazy, he got hit by lightning.
Oh my God!
I know you're losing it right now. It's okay. Everyone hold one another. I've worked it out in therapy. But yeah, he was hit by lightning. Yeah. So I'm serious. It's like the craziest thing. He was on one of the casinos and he was hit by lightning. So it's when I hear thunderstorms, I'm like, God already got one of us. I should be good. You know what I mean? I'm serious. Only a comedian would get that.
That's what I was just going to say. I guess you have worked it out.
I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
Hey, let's pause for 1 second because I know you said you were having some internet trouble before, and for the past few minutes it's been really jumpy and spotty. So I just want to give you a chance to check your signal. I'm going to check mine. And I would say Scott would edit this out, but I guarantee we will fucking hear this.
Every time.
And every time I hear him say that. Yeah, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to catch you when you were on.
No, it's fine. I'm talking about my brother's death. If you didn't enjoy that, that's fine. It's okay. It's fine. Yeah. Typical. Don't bring down our show, man. Please.
He's stepping all over the punchline once again.
Shit. I'm sorry.
He's that one guy in the audience stepping all over the punchline.
All right, I'm going to go back to drinking.
Right, exactly, right. That's two of us. I'm not drinking. Yeah, get in there. Get in there. Have one for me. Have one for my dead brother, Ace. Have one for my dead brother.
Here it is. There's for your dead
brother. Sláinte.
Cheers to Brian.
Cheers to Brian.
Love that.
Tom's not drinking. He's. Oh yeah, bring your Gatorade up. All right. No. So when did you? So you started around 97. When did you move out? Because it was funny because we used to work together, and then all of a sudden you didn't. And it was like whenever guys moved, there was sometimes maybe because I was from Rhode Island, so I didn't. Oh, I wasn't in Boston like 4 nights a week because I would go up maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. But all of a sudden I'd be like, oh wow, I haven't worked with Dwayne Perkins in a while. And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, he moved to L.A. like 5 months ago. So when did you move out to Vegas?
So you know what I did? I went to Portland, Maine first.
Well, I mean, that is the gateway to Vegas. We all know that.
Everyone knows.
Yeah, we know.
Mystic to Boston to Portland, Maine to Vegas.
I think the only person that worked for
I think those are all Southwest hubs now.
I think Marley was the only one that worked for. Was
Bob Marley is like my sensei, and Ollie was giving me mind-blowing work. He started booking the ID with me, Al Del Bene, and the boys in Maine. We had a huge college following, and I'd host Bob Marley's old show on Sundays, and I got all this stage time. And then Bob went to L.A., and then Bob waved me into L.A. and got me my first auditions at the Hollywood Laugh Factory. So I moved to Hollywood pretty quickly. By 2001, I was in L.A.
Oh, so within 4 years of starting.
Within 4 years, yep.
Yeah.
Well, but you know what? To your point, that's my catchphrase is to your point. I say that all the time. Yeah. But to your point, for real, you said
Ace, 100%.
You said that you wanted to you wanted to make a go at this. So you know what? When you're quitting your job and you're saying I'm going to be a full-time comic, we all know as great as Boston is, no one was getting famous out of Boston. You had to move to New York or LA.
And you had someone like Bob Marley in your corner willing to help you. You had to. You had to take that chance and go out there and do it.
He literally told me, he said, look, we're not getting younger. Here's the lessons I'm learning. He said, you have a really strong 15. He goes, you're going to be, these guys aren't ready for someone from the East. Mm-hmm. You're going to come out. You're going to do great. You're going to pick up another 10, 15 quickly. Do a little college tour on the side. And I went out there with like 20, maybe. And but I just jumped around like a nut with energy, stress, and Boston, dude. I'm telling you, it's Boston.
Yeah.
I did really well quickly. And then over the next couple of years, I was following so many celebrities. I was getting good really quickly. They were just killing me, I was following Dane when Dane was exploding, and I don't mean following, I mean getting run down when Dane, and you have Damon Wayans, you had Chris Rock, you had Chris Tucker, you had so many incredible comedians, and you didn't get one Wayans brother, you had the whole effing Wayans family.
Right.
So you would have they and with respect, I loved them, but they would show up with like 11 family members, and then you'd go up.
Yeah. Right. Isn't it like their sister is on like doing comedy?
Dude, it was crazy. I was like, oh my God, I just want to. So those years were really building years. I would me and Tony Rock's one of my close friends, Ruben Paul. We would grind, run to the Comedy Store because the Comedy Store was dead. We would do like the belly room, the other room, and none of us had vehicles. We were broke, man. We would literally hitchhike over to the Improv and then back to the factory over and over and over again. 2001, 2002, starving. Really starving. And then things started to get better, and I started headlining in Vegas, Atlantic City, and doing well. And I would take my check, I'd come back, I'd pay my rent, I'd eat a little, and then I'd just go to stage like a nut and grind. I got a development deal with Courtney Cox. I had some heat with Will Smith. I did a couple of little roles, and I did a bunch of late night stuff, like little late nights with Craig Ferguson, Craig Kilborn when he was still around.
Yeah.
And I just started grinding, man, and I got better. And then life, you know.
And you know what? It's funny because we've had, I don't know, do you remember Darren LaCroix?
He's in Vegas. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Darren LaCroix was a guy who Vinny Favorito took under his wing, did the same thing to you. And his biggest piece of advice that Vinny told him was stage time, stage time, stage time.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get up on stage, get up on stage because it's going to make you better. And it sounds like that grinding that you had was that was the work ethic that was instilled in Boston comics. And it helped because obviously it got you places by just constantly going up and constantly going up. And then, like you said, you build. And coming from Boston, you had a really strong base. Even if it was 15 to 20 minutes, it was a very strong base. It wasn't you starting comedy in L.A. and sucking at open mics. It was way different.
Yeah, it was way like Los Angeles guys weren't ready for one of us. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I heard it was like.
I don't know if they just...
No, go ahead. If you want to shit on someone,
they weren't. Like, I remember I could see that these guys, and still to this day, if you didn't start in like Chicago or like Boston or New York or, really, those are my favorites, Chicago, Boston, and New York. I can see it, especially as a seasoned comic now. Guys will come to my show. Everybody that shows up in Vegas, if they're like, yeah, I came out of Boston, I literally have a 9 out of 10 chance this guy's going to be really good.
Right.
Same with Chicago, depending upon the years. But when I hear other places, I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I can't put you up. I've never seen you, but I have a good idea. Right. Those are my little snobby rules because those places, Chicago, Boston, and New York, are ridiculous training camps, Who in the world would do comedy at the Vault? Who?
Right, yeah.
Who?
Exactly.
Who?
Yeah.
Who? Why? Why? What is wrong with you?
All of us.
Yeah. What's so wrong with us that we stood in front of an open safe with no audience and a piece of paper? A piece of paper, it said the Vault.
Exactly.
What? If a dude came up to me and went, I know about the Vault, I would go, hey, dude, do 40. You're good. Go.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You can handle it. And you know how to set up the chairs before and after the show.
Right.
That was the key to Dick Doherty rooms.
Right? Exactly.
If you could set up and break down the room, you got stage
time.
Exactly.
So, it's funny because I started talking about Darren LaCroix and, the last time I worked with him was at this, Bob Mello gig out in Western Mass. Darren completely ate it in front of me. It was horrible. I felt so bad for him. Next thing you know, I joined Toastmasters, public speaking group, and they're like, wait a minute, you do comedy? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, do you know Darren LaCroix? Like, he's the second coming of Jesus. He was the world champion of public speaking for 1 year. And now, I bought his CDs for how to come up with a keynote address, and on the cover of it, it's him leaning against his convertible Mercedes overlooking the fucking mountains in Las Vegas. I'm like, what did I do wrong? I crushed at Goodfellas in Feeding Hills. Where did it get me?
You are not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. Okay, I'm serious. You're not even going to believe it. Just every note is going to feel crazy to your ear. I'm in Shanghai, China. Yeah, did you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm in Shanghai, China. I had a residency. I'm the first American stand-up to work and live in China. I had a gig. It was jammed. I know it's bizarre. I left LA and I moved to Asia because Asia was blowing up and American comics were crushing. And
really?
I had a little show. I get to do this giant corporate with these wealthy Chinese people. They're all dressed to the nines. I look like this, T-shirt and jeans. I'm embarrassed. They're like the American celebrity comics here. I go in, and then someone leans over and goes, in broken English, "Do you know Darren LaCroix?" And I go, "What?"
Yes, he is internationally known, and I'm not shitting on Darren. I'm not shitting on him because he is an amazing.
I go, the dude. No, we're boys. I go, the dude I opened up for in New Hampshire years ago. They're like, probably at Bob's gig at Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
exactly.
What?
Yeah, right.
And dude, because I knew Darren, I was a celebrity and treated like gold. Yeah. He's here in Vegas. Amazing. He's killing it. Yeah, he just wrote a book. I mean, he comes to my shows. He's really,
and he's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
I fucking love Darren. Don't get me wrong, but it was one of those shows where he opened for me and he had a really rough set, and they didn't like him, and then I crushed. And then years later, people are like, "You know Darren LaCroix?" And then all of a sudden, I'm buying his CD set on how to write a speech because I want to do it.
Yeah. So he sends people to see me, and he's like, that Boston connection is really cool that we met up later, and I got to tell him that because of him, I got to breathe some fresh air at a corporate Chinese event in Shanghai.
In Shanghai. That's awesome. Now,
and I got to tell you, I did terrible. But every now and then I would go, remember, I'm friends with Darren. Hey.
I would pull that card out every chance I had.
Listen, I don't have one call. I don't have one callback in my act, but that would be my callback in China.
The entire night.
Absolutely.
It was.
That's funny. Now is Vinny still out there? Was Vinny Favorito? Was he out in Vegas for a while too?
So he was before my period, but Vinny is also one of the people that early in my career, I got to open for in Portland, Maine, and he was an incredible crowd worker, and I learned an incredible amount from him. I haven't seen him in quite many years. He kind of disappeared and went in and out. God bless him. I don't know the story, but he was very helpful to my early years. So
Yeah, I just
Boston
wasn't sure.
New England was.
Well, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because as much as we had these killers, we had a lot of people who were very supportive. Like, I mean, and Scott brought it up earlier. No one was better at building you up than Kevin Knox. I mean, Kevin Knox would destroy the room and then go, "Hey, listen, fuckers, this guy is a good friend of mine. He's coming up to the stage. His cock is hard. He's all set."
Oh, my God.
He would get everyone going.
Is that brilliant or what?
Oh, my God, that's amazing. Let's get some woo-woos. Yeah.
Let's get some woo-woos. Muffy! Woo!
So he's hosting in Atlantic. He's like, I don't know where he was on the lineup in Atlantic City, but I was auditioning, and I'm listening to The Wall. I mean, this is like, Atlantic City's my hometown, but this room was brutal in 2000. It was all people in their 80s. And I'm listening to The Wall. It's total silence. I can hear the seasoned comedian speaking. And Kevin Knox stood behind me in shorts in winter with his mullet and a Corona. And he blew into it and went, "Whoo, whoo, yep, get ready. You're going to eat it," and walked away.
Well, maybe I should rephrase that. Most times he was supportive.
No, he was. But you know what's funny? He was supporting me. He was like, it's just comedy,
Yeah,
and
he was trying to bring levity to the situation.
Yeah, he's breaking the stress of the moment.
You're making me think of this other story. So my whole family's in Atlantic City. I get a call. "Hey, Butch, I'm on the job right now. I'm at Caesars. I just watched your boy Kevin Knox carry passed out Lewis Black into Caesars, and he's walking around the casino with him as if he doesn't have a body on his shoulders." He goes, So Kevin, sober or whatever, has Lewis Black passed out and is still sort of hanging out at the bar at Caesars.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, he goes, I followed him for like 15 minutes. Then they got in. Well, he goes, Kevin walked into the elevator with Lewis on his shoulders and went up. Oh my God.
That's
amazing,
awesome.
man. I love it.
But all those guys were like that. Tony V. We had Tony V on the show a couple of years ago.
Legend.
We had Rogerson on. Tony's going to be opening up for Bill Burr at Fenway in like a week or so, right? Isn't that coming up?
I think the 20th of August.
You know, because Bill recognizes people that helped him out on the way, on the way up too.
Of course.
Now, did you ever do that gig because you mentioned like Patrice and Dane and Al and probably Bill around the similar time? Did you ever do that Hell gig in Bill Ricker, the 99 open mic?
I never did.
That wasn't a Hell gig.
I never did it, but I just kept. Everyone says, "Oh my God, that was such a Hell gig."
It was.
Yeah,
it was a Hell gig.
Daisy Buchanan's was my Hell gig.
Daisy Buchanan. I remember the name.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I remember. I don't know if I ever played there though.
Yeah, I mean, but Boston was weird because I was like I'm so comedy romantic that all of those experiences were so fun and nuts.
Yes.
And drinking beers. And then like we'd go to Brighton and we're in that little Irish bar where they're all really Irish. And
right.
My open mic crew and I, we all sucked, but we drank like we had just done an HBO special.
Right, right.
I mean, all that period of time was just amazing. And, gradually later it caught up with me because, a Darren LaCroix experience or like going through New York or going through the road, the guys that survive it, that make it, who are in those other higher level auditioning process, they're your boys, and you got these stories, and you got your Tony V stories, and you got your Dick Doherty stories, and then through New York, it's all those gigs now seem amazing, even though
I
didn't know I was eating it. I didn't know. I didn't know enough to know.
You didn't think of it then, but like we've talked about it on the show before. There used to be this shithole in this guy Brian Derry. I think he was before your time. But he used to book a place in Narragansett, Rhode Island called Windsor's, and it was like it was a Hell gig. But on Sunday nights they would do comedy from 7 to 9, and then at 9 o'clock all the college kids from URI would come back because it's a suitcase college. Everyone goes home on weekends. Then they'd come back Sunday night and they'd go to Windsor's for like dance party night or whatever. But what would happen is you're in the middle of your show. You're between 8:30 and 9. They're starting to file in like, what's going on? We want to dance, get these fucking clowns off stage. But I was opening for Ed Regine. I was opening for Joe Rogan. I was opening for, these were the guys I was looking up to. Eddie Galvin, Do you remember Eddie? Do you remember Eddie Galvin?
No.
Hilarious fucking guy, but we just worked with his sister, who's also a comic, not this past weekend, and we said we got to get Eddie on because Rogan and Fitzsimmons
have mentioned
him on Rogan's podcast. They've talked about periwinkles and Providence and stuff. But yeah, you don't realize it at the time that those are going to be memories you're going to take with you and think back to.
I was kind of right at the tail end of all that busy time because when I started in the early 2000s, the Connection, Faneuil Hall, was 7 nights a week. Dick Doherty had shows 7 nights a week at clubs. And then there were other small rooms like we would do Monday night at Faneuil Hall, and then we'd go over to Somerville. There was a bar up there that had a late night show, so we'd do 2 shows
after, right?
And then Tuesday night you'd go over and do Dick Doherty's, and then you do something after that. You could do shows every single night of the week, and then slowly by late 2000s there was none of that left. It was all. Once they moved the Comedy Connection out of Faneuil Hall, Dick started slowing down his shows, and then everything just was gone as far as the open mic nights and the showcase nights.
You got out at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, LA, 12 years, and then Asia, and then I was just really exhausted, but I didn't know it. And I got offered the residency at LA Comedy Club, which was in this dirty little room that I like to think it's like Rocky's first gym, you know.
Yeah.
And that
Mickey's
stage, and that when Mickey would have Rocky chase the chicken, and he goes, "Let's chase the chicken up." Every night was like that in this room, and I sort of got I had a front door. I'm driving 10 minutes. I thought this is probably going to last 2 months, but then I started to realize how tired I'd been from touring the world for all these years, running around like an animal, and then I started to calm down, and I sort of got like a Rocky 2 effect where I was getting better, getting healthy. And then I'm like, whoa, oh shit, I'm getting good again. And but it was a tough room, but it took me up to another level. And then by miracle, they end up going to the casino, invest $250 million into the Strat. This room becomes a $3 million room.
Wow.
So I hit like this crazy golden ticket, and now I'm in the Comedy Store of Vegas, the LA Comedy Club at the Strat, and they're really laid back owners like us. They're really chill, but the room's jammed 7 nights a week because it's like the Comedy Store. And then we have Brad Garrett's, we have the Cellar, and we have the Laugh Factory, and then we have a decent open mic scene, and we have a couple of like 3 outside rooms. Mm-hmm. But the etiquette of the comics, they don't know what we know. They don't know that you audition to go in. They don't know that you go from the vault and then you pray to God you get an audition at Faneuil Hall, and then you pray and then one of you let him open, and then he learns to open, and then he learns to feature. Because it started in the bubble of Vegas, we're now about 4 years into this open mic scene. Mm-hmm. They're way better, but they're missing some like really important elements.
Right.
Yeah, but it's awesome, cool, man. It's really cool. I got lucky. Yeah, Pandemic got lucky.
The scene has just grown there. Like
it
you
really
said, you had that one dingy room, and now all of a sudden there's rooms. It's really crazy. Vegas has really become this. Shortly after they started to crack the doors after the pandemic. All the states around us were locked up. So we were cracking the door. But the old comedy room was upstairs in the old part of the casino. So nobody was looking in. We were supposed to have 10 people, but we were effing sold out every night for the next 6 months because California would drive to Vegas and leave their lockdown. They take their checks and they party in Vegas every single night. Wow. It was crazy. Sold out every night. Vegas is still on fire. It's crazy. How far is LA from Vegas? I know it's not far, but again, I live in Rhode
4
Island.
4 hours.
All right, yeah. See, it's 35 minutes to go from diagonally from one end to the other in Rhode Island. So, 4 hours still sounds like a lot to us, but that's nothing out
west. That's like a drive
right.
from here to Maine.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Especially if your state and all those states are not letting you do anything. All you have is your check and nowhere to go out to dinner, nowhere to spend it. And they just left the politics and rolled into. They would come to Arizona and then they would come into Vegas. So it's a really interesting scenario. I don't know. I got lucky, but the comedy scene here now is loaded with a lot of celebrity comics. I mean, at any moment on the Strip, it's, I have a residency. I'm like the non-celeb resident, but I'm blessed. Then it goes Bill Burr. Then it's Sebastian. Then it's Russell Peters. Then it's Chris Rock and Kevin Hart. And then it's Lady Gaga. And it's Billy. It's really an insane thing, but it's cool. It's pretty cool for comics.
No, that's good awesome. For you. It sounds like a fun thing. So now, is Rick D'Elia there, or is he in Reno?
Well, no,
I know he was in Reno for a while, right?
He's Vegas, Reno. He goes back and forth. I love Rick. Rick and Jim McHugh are like two of the first comedians I met. They were leaving to go to L.A. When I went to Boston. They invited us after an open mic to their home to a party. The only reason the new guys were invited was because they were moving, and to enter the party, you had to promise to take a piece of furniture with you.
I could see that. I could see
Yep.
that.
sense.
That's awesome.
That's a good move.
So we got to meet the seasoned comedians. So
Right.
we went in, and me and my buddy carried out like a small couch. I swear to God. I swear to God. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
granted, 2 blocks away, Rick's whole apartment was laying on someone's lawn.
Right.
But, you know.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah, we had Rick on a couple of years ago. His episode, he named the episode. He said, I'm the fat Anderson Cooper, because we talked about how he went gray. And he goes, yeah, I call myself the fat Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, Rick's always been a good dude. When I first moved to LA, my hallway in this dive hallway was me, Rick D'Elia was 2 doors down. Then there was a Power Ranger. Then there was like some MTV people, some Star Trek people. We were all broke. Rick would bring his guitar out. We'd drink, smoke, and sing in the hallway till like 5 in the morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude,
That's
it was
awesome.
fun.
Man,
Yeah.
you know, we usually ask people about like their high points in their career, but you've literally filled this episode with awesome stories of just great memories that you've had, whether people were famous or not. You know,
Well, think about how low that point was in my life, that the greatest joy I had was listening to Rick sing.
4 a.m. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were drunk and stoned, so it probably sounded really good.
Yeah.
Dude, you should totally quit comedy and start a band.
Dude, you could be in the Rolling Stones, man. You're
right.
awesome.
The Boston thing always sort of stuck. Like, even when we were there, Dane would have big parties for any New England games. He'd have me, Rick, Bill Burr, anybody Boston up to his house in the hills. And yeah, it was cool. It's like that Boston thing always sort of, we looked out for one another.
Took
Granted,
care of
those
your
guys
own.
were flying, yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
There's always a bond amongst the Boston guys.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. I want to come out to Vegas. I'm 6 years away. So unlike you, I didn't quit my job. I was a pussy and did the fallback plan and worked in medical sales for the past 28 years. All right. I don't know why my battery's running low. I'm gonna have to check the thing in a minute. But I, I'm 6 years away from retirement, and I keep telling comics as they come on the show, I'm like, I want to go and do cruise ships. I want to go to Vegas. I want to go to LA. Like, once I retire, I'm gonna be doing everything I wanted to do when I was in my 20s that I fell back on this career because I was too afraid to take that chance. And I so admire guys like you, guys like Dane, guys like Bill, everyone that said, you know what, I got to do this. I got to just try
at least
it.
you still look like you're in your 20s.
I know.
So you
Yeah,
can
well,
pull
I
it off.
try. And I'll tell you why. It's because Four Roses
Vodka?
whiskey. Yeah,
I think you cut off.
all
my
right, I
friend.
don't even know what the hell I'm drinking. No, I gotta figure out why this just went off. Because I gotta plug in the thing. So talk.
I can hear you. I can hear all of you. Yeah.
Ace is calling bourbon vodka. He's got.
That's what I thought. I'm like, I thought that was bourbon.
It was, but
I'm gonna turn the fan on.
he does. Ace does a joke in his act about Jesus turning water into wine. About, isn't that a guy you want at a party? Well, Ace is a guy you want at a party because he could turn bourbon into vodka.
Right.
What
Hey, you need
are
a
you
vodka Red
drinking?
Bull. Yeah.
Here you go,
Abracadabra.
There you go.
It's the same color as rum. In fact, don't mind if I do. No.
So now let me ask you a question. What was the moment, where you had that first big break where you thought, okay, I am truly a comedian. I've made it. I am doing this. Like that first time you got to open up for somebody big, or the first time you had that big gig at a theater or something like that. What was that first?
It's like a lot of. It's so many little ones, depending upon where you were. Like, I opened for Lewis Black at the Grill 93 way back in the beginning, and then getting to LA, getting past at a club in LA, getting into the Laugh Factory, getting into the Comedy Store. Those are all giant moments. Surviving, I got to deal with Courtney Cox. Will Smith saw me after he filmed Ali, brought me in and helped my career.
Wow.
Courtney Cox saw me, helped me. over the past couple of years, 2 years ago, I had, right after that pandemic door opened, I had Sean McNamara, the director of Soul Surfer, in the audience on a dead night. I didn't know he was out there. He was out there with Todd Fisher, Carrie Fisher's brother.
Wow.
And they were doing a documentary on Doyle Brunson, the poker player. So, but I'm in the back and I'm talking to myself saying, this is a nightmare. What a comedy. What have I, and then I calm myself down. I go, just go have fun. I go out, I have a great set. He stops. He gave me, I have a special on Amazon. He gave me my Amazon special, filmed it.
Wow.
And then he called me a couple months later and he was asking me to, because I'm, improvisationally based, he asked me to riff lines for the movie Reagan he's working on with Dennis Quaid. He flew me out. It's coming out in January, but he flew me out and I'm in the movie Reagan. I got to improv with Dennis Quaid for 2 hours in Oklahoma and filming the movie Reagan. So it's
I think
stand
that
up
qualifies.
is crazy. Yeah.
That's a good. The
I
funny
think that's
thing
a
is,
wow moment. That qualifies.
You've actually mentioned Lewis Black like 3 times, and
That's
it's so
weird.
weird because
That is
I
weird.
wish we had you on earlier, because I have literally been talking to his management over the past week, and they asked me, "What's your listenership? Who else have you had on?" And I named like Marley, and I named
Bobby
Collins, and I dropped all these names, and now I think I'm going to follow up with another email. Hey, by the way, we just had Butch Bradley on today.
Yeah,
Because
I love Lewis Black. If you can reach him, he's going to say yes.
I got to open up for him once down in Newport, Rhode Island, in front of 1,700 people under this massive tent, and he was. He liked, he said I did well, and I don't know if he was really watching the, 25 minutes that I did in front of him, but I had a good set, and he asked, afterwards, he's like, hey, great job, and hey, do you want a picture for your like social media or webpage or anything? I was like, wow, I didn't ask him, he asked me, and I said,
cool.
yeah, I guess I could take a picture with you.
Right.
But you're right. He was so nice. And I have to say, you know what I love about him that I don't think a lot of people realize, because he's got that that whole angry persona.
Yeah.
But I watched him on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. His laugh is so fucking contagious. It's so funny when he starts laughing.
Right.
I love his laugh.
Right.
You want to see him as just a person
And that's the
show
way you
some
saw him.
emotion.
Yeah.
You watch the Robin Williams documentary on HBO.
Love
Come Inside
that.
My
Oh.
Mind.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
I've watched it a dozen times at least. But when Lewis is talking about Robin, you see a guy, he's just Lewis Black, the person who was friends with this guy, a fan of this guy, looked up to this guy, and he kind of showed a different side of himself than we're used to seeing.
Seeing on stage.
And it was nice to see that different side of Lewis, because we're used to him, pointing his finger and all angry and, all this, and you just saw a different side of him, and it was nice. I've always loved his comedy, but I kind of saw that and I was like, all right, there's a real person there.
That's why I think I loved his laugh, because it was so unlike his stage
Genuine,
persona,
right?
Yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I mean, I'm sure if you can, you should tell all your fans, tell everybody to start tweeting at Lewis, please do. Like, just start doing that. And if he sees it, he would do it.
Yeah.
And
honestly, so I sent them back a message. It's been a day. I haven't heard back, but I'm feeling confident that I'll get a rejection by tomorrow, I'm sure.
Right.
You can do it, I'm sure.
I could do it.
Sure you can.
But
if
you know
anybody
what?
can pull off a rejection, it's my co-host.
I'm going to fucking frame that rejection.
That's right.
That's right.
Right.
Who you had on your podcast? I've had this guy, I've had that guy, and we've been rejected by Lewis Black.
Yeah, it's like getting rejected by the Cannes Film Festival. People that get rejected at framing that,
Exactly.
No, I mean, we did. We had, I don't know, did you ever know Martin Olson?
I don't know Martin Olson.
That was
No.
probably before his
Well,
time.
it was well before your time, but because he was out in L.A., I thought maybe he might be someone that's around. He was the piano player at the Ding Ho. Remember the Ding Ho?
Wow, yeah,
So
of course, from the documentary on comedy there is.
Yeah, so he was the piano player, moved out to L.A., and then it was funny because when we had him on, he was like, oh, yeah, and then I worked for Disney for a bunch of years and blah, blah, blah. I go, wait a minute. Back up. You just all he wanted to do was talk about how he brought Don Gavin out to L.A. and he brought this one out to L.A. He would not talk about himself. He wanted to talk about all of the Boston comics. I go, wait a minute. For our audience, what did you do for Disney? He goes, well, I was the head writer and the showrunner for Phineas and Ferb. I'm like, do you realize that my kids don't give a shit about anyone I have on this show, but they give a shit that I had the guy who wrote Phineas and Ferb on the show?
That is killer, dude. He's famous for two different reasons.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Ding Ho is legendary. I mean,
exactly.
And Don Gavin told me a story. He told me and Bob Marley this story. He came out to L.A., took us to dinner, and he said, first of all, he told us when he first got there, Kinison picked him up in a limo to take him from the Laugh Factory to the Comedy Store. And he said at the time, Sam was dating Sika, and the porn star. And he goes, he said just nonchalantly, Sam's talking to me, and he goes, Sika, give him a blowjob on the way there. So anyway, and Sam kept talking, and she pulled his pants down and starts going down. And Don said, don't know what to do. I'm like in between two. He goes, and of course I was all good to go. By the time we put up the store, I was done, and we get out. And then he tells us, he just tells us these crazy stories. But he told us that he was there the night Kinison was discovered. He said everyone came to, they were all at Nick's. It was packed. Kinison goes up, but he does like all this blow before he goes out, right?
Yep.
Don Gavin goes up. He's murdering. They bring up Kinison. Kinison is on the stool and fades out. The whole audience starts to boo and go crazy and go nuts. And everyone knows this is the night where every newspaper in the country came to see Kinison. They throw him in a limo. He's in a lot of trouble. He starts heavily drinking in the limo. The limo gets to the Ding Ho. By then, he comes down. He walks in, annihilates. By pure luck, all the industry went to the Ding Ho. As all the guys meet up late night, Don said, that guy's career is done. And they said, are you nuts? He killed it. He brought the roof down. And the next day, he was on every newspaper there was in the country.
So they totally forgot the Knicks set and only...
They didn't see it. They didn't see it. They went to the Ding Ho. Yeah. All the papers are sitting at the Ding Ho waiting for him. They never saw that at Knicks, he was out of his gourd. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Now, Butch, when we brought up Martin Olson, you were talking about the documentary When Stand Up Stood Out about the Boston comedy. Remember in that they were talking about how there was a reunion, a Ding Ho reunion, and they showed the guys more modern day. Well, there's a piano player sitting on the stage for the reunion, and that's Martin Olson. Because he came back for the reunion as well as all those other guys when they got together to support Barry Crimmins. And
I know who he is because of what you said. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He also he's an author. He actually wrote 2 books. His first book, he's like satirical, very, very, very out there though. Like very I don't even know how to say it.
I don't know.
So his book is called The Encyclopedia of Hell. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's literally like Dante's Inferno.
And the acknowledgement at the front of it was written by, what's his name from Metallica? Lars.
Oh, Lars Ulrich.
Lars Ulrich from Metallica.
All of Metallica.
Metallica loves the book.
A huge fan.
They love the book.
When Martin was on, he actually he told a story about how Rodney asked him for a joint. Rodney Dangerfield, he worked with him. It was a big, long story, but it was hilarious. And he said, Rodney Dangerfield asked me for a joint because he wanted to calm down or because he had eye issues. It was
he told him he had glaucoma and I need a joint.
He goes, Rodney, I don't smoke. Well, he's like, see what you could do. And then all of a sudden he goes to do a show and next door Metallica is staying at the same hotel or something. He gets called over to Metallica's room because they want to say, hey, you did such a great job.
love your book."
love your book. And then the next thing you know, as he's leaving them, one of them, I think it was Kirk Hammett, shakes his hand, and he goes, and he literally, as he's shaking my hand, places this massive fucking doobie in my hand. He goes, just by chance, I walk over to Rodney. I go, Rodney, look what I got. He's like, hey, kid, you came through for me.
Holy
Amazing.
shit!
You gotta live.
It's like a 15-minute story, but it's one of the best stories we've ever had on here.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
great,
how do you take a story that has Metallica and Rodney Dangerfield in a joint in the same thing?
It was when they were doing the show for Penn and Teller.
That's right.
That Rodney was on the show for Penn and Teller.
Right.
So it was all this stuff going
It
on.
was literally the craziest fucking story.
Yeah.
ever.
Yo, this is like so. Rodney was performing at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood weekly until before he passed away. This might be one of the rare ones that even has a chance to hold up with it. But he's on stage and he would wear shorts and a shirt. And he's killing. The place goes nuts. It's packed. I think he was 80. He died at 82. He was just murdering. He goes, now we're going to try stuff that's new. He takes his glasses out, takes out this piece of paper, like 7 folds. And he goes, grabs the mic, and he goes, you tell me when they suck. So he tells a joke. He gets a hit, tells a joke, gets a hit. I'm watching this. He's killing. He tells another joke. This guy goes, that one sucked. Rodney slowly folds up the piece of paper, puts it in the top of his shirt, takes his glasses off, puts them away, grabs the mic stand. He leans out and goes, fuck you! he pulls his glasses out, puts them on, opens up his notes and goes, we'll continue.
So the only reason he folded it up wasn't to abandon the jokes. It was to tell that guy, fuck you. Oh, my God.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
You mentioned
legend.
Yes, and you mentioned earlier about watching him and watching him move a room. I got to see him. I went to see him it was the Worcester Centrum at the time. I don't know what it's called now, but anyway, he had 2 or 3 opening acts, and one of the guys got booed off the stage. And then another guy came out and did mediocre at best. Rodney comes out and literally held 12,000 people in the palm of his hand and just owned that entire room. And first he came out and yelled at everybody for the way they treated the comics that were on before him. Yelled at the crowd. And then started going into his material and literally we hung on every word he said for the entire set. It was unbelievable to watch. And I was like you, I'm just watching this in awe of like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like a maestro, you know?
Yes,
he was really
exactly.
He was a master. It was really crazy.
He conducted the audience. He
conducted
literally conducted the audience.
Dude, I gotta tell you this, and I'm sorry to break in with this. I just got a Facebook message from a comic in Boston, this guy Patrick Collins.
Oh geez.
I know Pat. We did open mic together.
Yeah.
So
Pat's a good guy.
Pat literally just sent me a shitload of pictures from Nick's Comedy Stop. And the first one, we're gonna have to put these in the show notes. The first one is you. I don't know who the second one is. The third one is Patrice. Fourth one is McHugh.
Wow.
The next one is Pat, and then the last 2 are you. I'll send these to you on
I love
Facebook
you, Pat.
Messenger.
What's up, brother? Yeah.
Dane is the one looking up in the
Dane's
air.
the second one.
Dane's the second.
Oh my God! You know what? It helps if I go back and look.
Photos. Yeah.
All right. So Pat, actually, I just realized
he was there. Like we did our first couple of nights together. Yeah. And he's who I drank with at that Irish bar in Brighton.
Of course, Pat Collins would be drinking in Brighton.
Yeah, we're boys, man. Right.
Oh, look, he just sent me a message. He goes, "I'm in for Vegas."
Look at young Butch with the ball cap and the tie on,
and the so Patrick Collins.
That's what I did. I always had like a little tie on.
Yeah.
I'm in for Vegas. What? No, Butch. You don't have to let me crash at your place. Really? You insist? You're the best, Butch Bradley. DM me your address.
Come on out,
See you
Pat.
soon, buddy.
Come on out. I got a spot. Get out here.
You heard
100%.
it. You heard it,
100.
buddy.
Thursday to Monday, 10 p.m. Show up. You're there at the Strat.
That's
You're
awesome.
on.
All right.
Yeah.
So we just got you a gig, Pat Collins. Now I want gigs. All right.
Well, I'm going out to Vegas in 6 months. I'm gonna have to give you a call, Butch.
100%.
Yeah.
Just show up. Just seriously show up before the show. Yeah.
If I ever get out there, I will definitely look. I'll definitely reach out to you because I'd love to.
So one final question.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, this was
really
phenomenal.
appreciate it. This was so
thank
much
you for
fun
having me,
reconnecting.
man.
I love when we get to talk to people who started in Boston that haven't been there in a while, because the memories that come back, we all share in those memories because we all had those interactions with those guys that never necessarily left Boston.
It's a special place, man.
It really
No
is,
BS.
right?
It's a special place. I've lived all over the world. I've traveled, and walking from Faneuil Hall up those steps to get on to the Green Line and all are special memories for me. I was starving. I was broke, but it's special time. I knew that I was very lucky that I was starting comedy in Boston. The cobblestone, the energy, the legends that I got to be around, and I wasn't even aware of it. It's a special place. And whenever I'm out, all the murderers in LA all those years had Boston roots. And they were just killers, like killers, Really, it's a special city.
I love when we get to talk to guys like you who haven't been back in a while, and I could see, like, you literally, we didn't even ask a question in the beginning because you literally lit up and started talking Boston for the first 15 minutes, and I love that. Because if we can bring you back to Boston, if we can bring those memories back, that's what we're looking for. That's our audience loves hearing that stuff, because I think Boston, I think gets underappreciated.
It does.
Well, it does,
comedy.
and it also has a reputation because we have some fans, like one that lives out in Colorado that's originally from the East Coast, and she misses that going to comedy shows out here because she said it's not the same, out there. She misses that the fast,
that fast-paced killer,
type of mode of comedy that she saw out when she lived out here compared to what she sees in Colorado, and she just knows all the names and the faces and the places, so it's a lot of fun reminiscing about it. So appreciate it.
So first of all, we really appreciate coming on, but we always end the podcast with this one question for folks. And it's because if you've been doing comedy more than 3 to 6 months, you probably have at least 3 of these stories. But we always like to ask our friends about the funny bad gig story. And that's the gig that was so bad that when it happened, it probably made you want to quit comedy. It wasn't funny at the time. But then, like, 3 months, 6 months later, you're in the green room talking to a bunch of other comics, and everyone's sharing their war stories like, oh, my God, you wouldn't believe this shit gig I did last week. And then you're like, oh, you think that's bad?
There's so many, man. There's so many. But
listen,
this is your one-up story.
When I was a guest on this podcast before I became a co-host, I had 3 stories that I ended. I go, can I tell 3?
We've had people tell 1. We had one person tell like 5.
Yeah,
So whatever you want to tell.
So honestly, Daisy Buchanan's was a very helpful bad moment that really stuck with my whole career because I learned a great lesson there. I went out. Everybody knew Daisy Buchanan's was like, you felt cool to be allowed to go perform at this gig, being as green as I was. Yep. I was scared, but still naive not to know what I was getting into. I remember perfectly that I said to a gentleman who had these little glasses, I said, what do you do for a living? And he said, I'm a writer. And I remember going into an improv about him typing and telling a story. And now I'm doing well. I'm feeling incredible. I can't believe I'm doing this in front of this audience that's a tough show. And his wife, they were a very attractive couple. This is important because I keep this lesson. And she said, excuse me. She was really smart, man. She goes, excuse me. And I stopped. and she looked back at the audience. I'll never forget. She went, "Didn't we all come here to hear written material?" Like, she looked back at everyone. Like, she built a group of yeah. And she was really, really attractive and well. And I, at that moment, looked at her like, I need to be respectful. This is a woman. This is a guy's wife. And she went, she took her time like this evil person. She goes, "Did you bring," and once again, look back at her friends, "Did you bring anything for us written?" And I went, oh. Fuck. She crushed me. I couldn't, I remember, I looked over and I went, I remember I pointed at this older woman. I went, "You were enjoying me, weren't you?"
Try to find that one ally in the audience.
Yeah.
And I walked off, and all the other comics looked away because they didn't want to look at me. And I'll tell you what she taught me. No one is anyone in my audience ever again. I redo that moment so much in my head. I would have consumed her. She has made me a killer in the crowd.
Yeah.
And the pain still lingers.
Oh, yeah.
Watching her develop a following to hate this new comedian with a dream. Let's kill Butch Bradley before his dream gets any more. Kill Butch.
Because she did exactly what Ace taught me when I first started. He goes, "If you have a heckler, get the crowd on your side before you go after them."
She got the crowd on her
side before she went after
Dude,
you.
and here's probably the most painful part. That ride home, how many things did you think of that you wish you said?
Oh, he's still
Dude,
thinking of
I
it
was
right
in the
now.
car.
You have a list. Yeah, you want to find her address and have a list of all the things, the comebacks that you thought of, right?
I was in the car with 3 comedians who all did well. I had to sit. No one would talk to me. They acted like I had a contagious disease.
It's
It's
like that episode of Seinfeld where George flies all the way back to tell the guy, "Oh yeah, well I had sex with your wife."
Exactly.
Daisy Buchanan, that woman has made me a great comic.
Well,
I don't like Boston and,
what?
that woman.
And you know what they say?
That's great.
You don't grow out of the comfortable situation.
No,
you
I
grow
hate her.
out of.
I hate her. I hate you. If you're watching right now and this story sounds familiar, I hate you.
I hate you, but thank you.
I think that
Thank you.
I think
Thank
that might be the name of the episode. Butch Bradley to the woman from 30 years ago. I hate you.
Yeah. Yes. I like that. Please make that the title. I want her
hate
to
you,
know.
but thank you.
I hate you, but thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. No, listen, man. We really appreciate you being on. We hope you had fun too. And
I had a blast. Thank you so much. I mean, the two of you were amazing. You didn't say shit.
No,
You sat there with your
Poor
arms
Tom.
folded the whole time. No, I had to stare at you. I had to stare at you the whole time. Cranky, you got up. You went to the bathroom. You don't think the 3 of us had to go to the bathroom? The only person I
felt
hate
so
more than
bad.
that woman is you. I hate you too.
No, I felt so bad because, believe it or not, Tom has a podcast, but it's in paranormal.
Sorry, Tom.
He's an awesome paranormal podcast called
Tom
My
knows that
Paranormal
was a
Story.
compliment.
Of course he does. He's going to put that in his resume now. Butch Bradley.
anyways.
Yeah, I know.
right.
No, he's going to put that in his bio and his resume.
Yes.
Told, "I hate you more than the woman that."
Here's Tom the whole time. Here's Tom the whole time.
I almost said no. I almost turned to you at some point and said, "If you want to jump in, don't let us monopolize it." But
No, it's your show. I just came to watch.
We really appreciate you coming on. This was so much fun.
Fantastic.
Anytime you want to
Thank
come
you,
on, anytime you want to come on, let us know.
Open
Again,
invitation.
open
Thank you,
invitation. And if you
gentlemen.
know,
Appreciate it.
and if you know any other comics out in Vegas that want to come on, let us know. Reach out.
Oh,
because
cool.
we'd love to.
100%.
Love to.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, cool. I'll make that happen. Yeah.
You just said his catchphrase.
My catchphrase, 100%, baby.
When he agrees with someone, he says 100%, and I always say to your point. So we actually have shirts made. His says 100%, and mine says to your point. So let us know. Email me your shirt size, and we'll send you a shirt.
A Behind the Funny podcast
Awesome.
shirt. Yeah, I'd love to send you one.
All right.
Now,
I'm a large.
All right,
you got it.
We got it.
Now, website, social media, anything we can promote?
Okay, yeah. I'm on ButchBradleyComedy.com. I'm on Instagram at Butch Bradley Comedy. You guys can catch me on TikTok. I've got at least 9 followers on there. And
you got 3 times as many as me.
Yeah. So, but hit me on Instagram or on Facebook. Come say hello. My show is weekly, Thursday to Monday in Las Vegas at the Strat. If you're in Vegas, say that you saw Ace's show, mention these guys, and I'll comp you guys in. Hit me for tickets on Instagram, and I will comp you in if you're in Vegas, Thursday to Monday, 10 o'clock.
That's awesome.
I'll definitely be hitting you up for that.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. If you're out in Vegas, you got to check out Butch's show. Funny
100%.
comic.
2 months ago when I was there.
Yeah, right. I know.
Just there.
Wow,
Again,
you
the
guys just
timing
went
is off.
blank again. This is so crazy.
Oh, can you hear us?
The ghosts
All
are
right.
coming.
I think we lost him again.
All right, fuck you, Ghost.
Yeah, I
this
can.
is
You came
enough
back.
of the Ghost. Fuck you, Ghost.
He's getting pissed
Wait,
off at the
there's
ghost.
there's something right behind you. There's something right behind you.
I'm not falling for that again.
It's a static person. It's a static person. No. Thanks again, man. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night, and thanks so much again for coming out.
Good night. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Boston. I love you guys. Thanks. Have a
Take
good
care,
one.
Butch. Thank you.
Later, Butch. That's awesome. That was Butch Bradley. Oh, you know what? I took him off and he kissed the screen. I'm sorry. He was kissing the screen as we were.
What a great guy.
going. Awesome guy.
Great
and you know
guy.
what? I had totally forgotten that Pat Collins told me he had been on a show with Butch Bradley and when he first started.
I
and
forget
Patrice.
how long Pat has been doing comedy.
You know what? Yeah, because he took some time off
Right,
and then came back to it. So I forgot. Yeah.
You kind of think about him in his second
and we had
wave.
Pat on, what, second or third
Yeah, we
season?
had him on a while ago, but
Yeah.
I remember him talking about doing Knicks back with Dane Cook and those guys. So you kind of forget that he's been around for a while.
And I love the fact how we segued by Butch shitting on you,
I know.
and then all of a sudden we
Shit
got
on
into
me
a
and
whole
we turned it into a ghost story.
which was
Yeah.
amazing.
2 fucking podcasts in the one. It's fantastic.
So enjoying his stories. I literally was just sitting here like I was at home.
I know
Watching
you're
on
watching
my
the
couch.
show,
Yeah.
and you watch the show all
I'll
the time.
Sit at home and watch.
Tom
and
is
this was
one
a
of
good
the
one.
Tom is one of the most loyal viewers of the show on our media stream because every time I always check to see who's liked the the podcast and the episode and who's watching, and Tom's always like the first one to like.
Yeah,
so.
I don't always watch the whole thing, but I usually check in, watch for a little while, and then
Right,
and then I get sick of you. And
yeah,
Yeah,
don't
because we
blame
tend
you.
to babble.
Yeah, we do. I mean,
Well, you
look, we're an hour and 35 minutes in on this show, but
Yeah,
you know
but I'll
what?
be able to trim a good 30 minutes of paranormal shit off of it.
that's the best part.
Honestly, I think we should put that out as a special announcement leading into October.
Yeah, it's a nice.
Yeah,
little
let's sit here and
promo
I
discuss
think
it for
that'd be a
another
great
10 minutes
idea.
and record that too.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you can edit this shit out. Don't worry. No, listen, folks, if you're watching tonight, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you haven't watched and you're just listening, we appreciate you as well. So, again, 5-star written review.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend. And we really, we really want to increase our listenership as much as possible, like any other podcast. But you guys have been great to us over the past 5 years.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. And other than that, we will talk to you
Next week.